Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Steve Barber. No nickname today. None for Dwaylen either. Sorry, bud.
Hey, buddy.
So, yeah, we've been doing that, but today we're both tired because we
Yeah.
recorded a really good show last night with Sinclair
Yeah.
Octavius Bentley,
Yep.
and hopefully everybody's had a chance to check that out. If you haven't checked it out yet, go check it out. It's on all of our audio platforms and YouTube. So um, so we had a 2-part series on Black History Month, and I think
We
that
did.
was actually really
That was
cool
awesome.
because
Yeah.
very good conversations with Sinclair by himself, and then of course we had Joe Pro James,
Like the shirt.
yep, Matt Mims, and Devin Graves, on the show before that. So,
Yeah.
hopefully, we can do shows like that in the future. I
Because
don't.
those are conversations that need to be had.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of people are like everybody said on both shows. A lot of people are still uncomfortable having those conversations, and I'm just glad we could, put those conversations out there for people to listen to and maybe learn something from.
Right. And I will say this will be one of the few times we ever talk about politics, but I'll say it does not bother me in the least to have a conversation like that. And I'm considered conservative. Dwaylen's considered not conservative. It's hard for me to call you a liberal just because I think sometimes you're more left-leaning libertarian.
Yeah.
But
It's kind of
just knowing you as long as what I have. And sometimes I think of myself as a right-leaning libertarian, but either way, like I said, it's never bothered me to have a conversation like that because
right.
I'm, we can speak intelligently.
Exactly.
if you can have an intelligent conversation, it really should not matter, period. So, but anyway, I mean, so yeah, there was a good series, and hopefully, we can have some more like that. Just kind of talking about social issues as much as what we can without starting to get into politics.
Yeah.
Because that's where we kind of go, okay, let's because we're starting to get off of wrestling, we're starting to get into other stuff. But thankfully, neither one really did that.
Nope.
So, but anyway, I just want to say a big old thank you to Sinclair and to Joe Pro and to Matt Mims and Devin for doing that for us. That was very just super of them to do that. So,
yeah.
But tonight, we're going to be talking about something that actually kind of came up during, I know, yesterday's conversation with Sinclair. We're going to be talking about the upcoming WrestleMania, or really what I'm calling the bumpy road to this year's WrestleMania.
Yeah. And they need to pave that road real quick because it's not looking good right now.
Okay, I got to write that down in my notes. Must pave a road. Okay. Most paved road. I'm gonna put that in the notes, for the show description. But yeah, because it's supposed to happen the first weekend of April. I think April 3rd.
Yeah.
And right now,
they've just got a little over a month, and it's like they still, from reports that I've seen, they still don't have everything laid out. Usually by the time it's Rumble season, they already have their WrestleMania plans, laid out, and then they work the Rumble and go from there. But I've heard, I've been hearing that they still don't have everything laid out of what everybody's going to do on the show.
Ooh, that's scary.
And they've got 2 nights to fill.
But I'll tell you an event that was not scary, and that was the Northern Wrestling Federation Rumble from this past Saturday night. Dude, you missed a great show.
I did watch Bustin' Loose, and I've seen clips on Twitter, and it looks like it was an awesome show.
Oh yeah. And I'll have to say, yes, I made the prediction. I've never actually predicted a Royal Rumble correctly before, and I did the other night. I said Adam Swayze was going to win it, become the new NWF Heavyweight Champion, and he did.
And that's a beautiful belt. It reminds me of the original Ring of Honor world title.
Yep. And that's right, because Roger actually showed us the belt. We had an exclusive on our show. So if anybody who if you actually checked into the show, you would have seen the belt before he debuted. So Roger was actually nice enough we were the first ones to see it.
Yeah.
Now, that actually makes me feel pretty privileged and
yeah,
honored.
Me too.
I mean, so but yeah, the Rumble, it was just like, it was every 60 seconds and everybody's counting down, and everybody, I mean, the crowd was just into it. And there were a couple guys who I did not know who they were. Sinclair actually cleared that up last
Mhm.
night. And one of them was, what do you say, Lexus Montez?
I believe
Was
that
it?
was his name. Yeah.
Yeah, because, and I'd heard, so I didn't know, I couldn't have picked a guy out of a lineup. And so it really should have occurred to me when they were talking about him being there. And there was this dude who was in the ring who I didn't know who he was, but he was
Mhm.
good.
Yeah.
Should have realized that was him. But then the other two guys, kind of hillbilly-ish looking guys, were Ed
Mhm.
and Eddie, and that's kind of their thing. They're actually NWF Hall of Famers, apparently. That's what Randy
Yeah.
was my friend Randy was telling me.
Mhm.
So in fact, Sinclair, I think he mentioned it as
Yeah,
well
he
last
mentioned
night.
that. Yeah.
But yeah, it was an absolutely great event. And right before the event, of course, I met up with Justin and Trey from the Jay and Trey
Mhm.
podcast, and Courtney, and actually some of their friends as well, and Trey's mom and his stepdad. So
Cool.
I mean, oh yeah, I mean, everybody was out there having a large time. But right when, actually, before I got there, Justin had texted me and said, "Hey, um, I need to meet up with you before it starts. I got something for you." And I was like, "Okay." And when met up with him at the front, he said, "Oh," he said, "Here," and he gave me this autographed picture of Wildcat Chris Harris.
Awesome.
Because they were having a contest on their podcast, actually through their Twitter. Uh, if you could name the year that Chris Harris was in WWE.
Mhm.
And of course, I immediately had to pull up Wikipedia. I was like, bam, 2008. I mean, I hit it
Yeah.
right away. And then when they actually drew my name on their show, and I won the picture,
Cool.
so, but of course, the funny thing was earlier that day, I was at a place called the House of Plastic, which is located on 505 East or Route 125 in Cincinnati. And he had a Chris Harris, Walker Chris Harris figure. And if you look at the package, you can see where it's also autographed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and the guy who owns it, his name is Jerome. Um, he actually went to high school with my wife. He graduated the year before her.
Okay.
So they've known each other for quite a while. But he was telling me, he said, what I should probably do is get some rubbing alcohol and kind of clean
Mhm.
off the front, because you can tell where the marker is kind of smudged off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he said, get Chris, hey, Chris, what is that? Get Chris. He said, get Wildcat Chris Harris to actually autograph the cardboard on it instead.
Yeah,
And
because
that
it'll
way
stay. Yeah.
it'll stay better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just want to give, definitely a shout out to Jerome and his shop. Yeah, House of Plastic. If you're in the Cincinnati area, and especially if you enjoy wrestling figures, dude, I mean, he has a lot of, he has more than just wrestling figures, and you can find him on Facebook, and he actually usually has pictures.
I'll have to
But
check that out because I definitely have a big collection here myself. So.
oh, dude, I mean, he has our friend Chris Ahonen, Big Fat.
Mhm. Yeah.
Oh, he'd start salivating as soon as he walked in, because there's these busts that are for sale of
Mhm.
the 4 original members of Kiss.
Oh.
Yeah, and they're like $250 a piece, and so I'm like, somebody's going to be very happy. It won't be
Yeah.
me because
Yeah.
I don't have that kind of money. But
Yeah.
yeah, he actually has. You can see the Jimmy Valiant figure behind me. And that's actually where I got it.
Mhm.
In fact, let me make you see a little bit better.
Mhm.
But yeah, just yeah, but super shop. And all the figures he has some that are still in the packaging, like this one. He has some that are just loose. He has some that are like in plastic baggies,
Yeah.
and they're kind of
I've se-
together, if that makes any
Yeah, I've
sense.
seen that in shops before.
Um,
Excuse
and
me.
then he also has some that are behind a display locked,
Mhm.
because they're a little more rare. But yeah, I mean, if you like those, you like Lego minifigures. I mean, if you're into collecting things like that,
Mhm.
basically it's a big nerd shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, and
Sounds like my kind of place.
oh yeah, you would probably be able to double your Funko Pop collection. So, but yeah, yeah, definitely check that out. Like I said, I think it's 505. But you know what? I gave the address to uh, Chris Harris's wife, because she hit me up and she's like, "Hey, does he have any more?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, 834 State Route 125, Cincinnati." Look at that address. Boom, you're there. So, And that's actually when I told Sinclair about it last night. Sinclair's like, oh, he said, I live 3 minutes away from there. So I'm pretty sure he'll be walking in there at some point as well.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so another podcast I've got to give some shout out to, because he started retweeting some of our stuff. He started listening to us, and he's been boosting us. So I'm going to give him a boost as well, because he just dropped a new episode. He only drops his once a week. And, you know, because I believe his job, from the sounds of it, his job, I mean, he might be a truck driver, so he's actually gone throughout the week.
Yeah.
You know, so, but he records on the weekends, and his podcast is called The Hill Truth, but his Twitter is at Hillbilly Hill. And you've got to check the dude out, because according to him, and I have no reason to doubt him, but it gives us some motivation. Right now, he is trending #1 in Antarctica and MySpace. So we've got to step up our game.
Oh yeah.
I mean, but to be honest with you, I mean, he has a really good show, and he does kind of focus more on heels. But today his show was all about getting heat. And how you used to get heat, you know, back even in, like, you know, when we first started watching, versus how they get heat now. I mean, and it was a really good comparison and contrast with the two different eras. And so I'm definitely going to recommend go check him out. He's only done 4 episodes, I believe, and sounds like he can't keep producers, because he was talking about that too. So you know, but I mean, if he's doing it himself, he's doing a really good job.
Cool.
You know, but yeah. And like he said, the award-winning, trending #1 in Antarctica and MySpace. Just look it up, The Heel Truth. You won't be disappointed. So, and in other wrestling news, Tammy Sitch cannot keep her butt out of trouble.
She just got out of jail last month.
Yeah.
For assault charges against her ex. And
which ex?
The most recent ex. I think he had a restraining order on her, and she broke it. Just different things. This time she has 11 different charges.
You get 11 charges.
It's like, what are you doing with your life? I mean, is this, I don't know. You know, it's like, at one point she was one of the biggest stars in pro wrestling, and it's like, this is one of those cautionary wrestling tales of, you know, you're at the highest of highs. I mean, 1996, she was the most downloaded female on the internet.
On AOL, and that
on
was
AOL, and and in 1996, AOL was the biggest internet platform. So, and then, you know, she was always had a prominent, you know, position on the show, whether it was commentary, a manager, you know, whatever. And then things started to fall apart after she left, went to ECW with her husband, the late Chris Candido. And then they got booted out of there because they backstage issues, and of course, you know, the drug issues and things like that. And it's like, and then they went to WCW, same thing, ended up leaving there. Chris Candido ended up passing away. And like, it was like early days of TNA. It was like I think it was either right before or right after they got their first TV deal. And it was a freak thing. He ended up breaking his leg, and then and it was a blood clot, and just, you know,
during the surgery.
He had
a blood clot.
And it killed him. And, you know, she was grieving. You know, she lost her husband, to be expected, but it seemed like that she had kind of gotten a hold of life, so to speak, and she seemed like she was doing okay. And then a few years later, you start seeing the reports of, you know, Tammy's gotten arrested for this, or Tammy's got arrested for that. And it's just like, you know, it's 20 years later and she's still doing this.
And she's I think a registered nurse as well. That was something that she managed to do after, you know, she left wrestling, was she got her nursing degree and got certified. And
Nobody's going to hire you now.
Oh, I mean, and because actually, I know it sounds bad, but if you have a drug dependency problem, especially like painkillers, probably one of the worst jobs you could get is as something like a registered nurse because you have access.
Because you have access, yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, I have a cousin who, fortunately, a few years ago, she took her own life because at one point, she was a nurse and she actually had had surgery, and she had to take painkillers because of the surgery, and she was overprescribed. And she became dependent on them. And then she got to the point where she was unfortunately stealing from the hospital. She got caught. And, and she wasn't taking them just because, I just want to take them. I mean, she was actually still in pain. And then she got fired, but she still had these prescriptions. So finally the doctors cut her off. And after the doctors cut her off, she ended up taking her own life.
I had a friend that something very similar like that happened. And it's just sad.
Yeah. So really, I mean, we kind of, make light of Tammy getting arrested again, and even though, I mean, we don't know, but we really do wish, for her sake that she can actually get past all this and actually stay clean,
So, I mean, just, for her mental health, her, physical health, just for her own well-being, hopefully she can get past all this and, make a better life for herself.
Right. And sometimes, I mean, it is all about the choices we make, and she made some, I can always tell my kids, you don't know how a decision you make today is going to affect you 10 years from now.
Yep. Bad decisions will follow you so much longer than a good decision will.
Yep. And
I try to tell my kids that all the time.
Yep. And she's a WWE Hall of Famer. And, so she's definitely got respect to the rest of us. Please, Tammy, not that you're probably listening or watching us, but please, Tammy, we wish you the best. We really do. So, but was there any other wrestling news going on this week besides the stuff we're going to be talking about?
No, not that I can think of. Ric Flair turned 73 over the weekend. The Cody Rhodes stuff's been pretty quiet. I have a feeling that I have a feeling they're going to debut him after WrestleMania.
You think?
I think that Raw after WrestleMania, because I mean, I don't know where they would fit him on the card with, because if he's signing with them for a big money contract, which is what everybody's saying that WWE is going to, throw the world at him pretty much to get him to sign, he's going to want a prominent spot on the card. He's not going to want a opening match card, or he's not going to want an opening match or just a throwaway match. He's going to want something big. And the way everything's looking, we'll get into that in a minute, I don't know where he would fit on this year's card. I don't know what top tier opponent they could put against him on this year's card.
Wow, that's why this year's WrestleMania is looking kind of sad.
Yep.
And I actually just thought of another news item. Matt Cardona has added belt number 6.
Yes.
6.
Matt Cardona is now a champion with 6 different wrestling companies.
Man, he's
after he gets released. He gets released from WWE because I'm sure WWE thought, you could tell they never really thought a whole lot about him, and they probably didn't think a whole lot about him when they released him. And man, he's just been going across the indies. I mean, he's the Impact Digital Media Champion. He's the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. He competes regularly on GCW. And then he's just gone around all these other, regional independent places, just scooping up championships. There was a picture I sent picture to Steve that Cardona had posted on Twitter. He had them all laid out on his bed, and it was like belt number 6.
And like I said, he's looking more and more like the Ultimate Dragon every day.
Yeah. Yep.
And I really can't think of anything else that happened over the weekend because I was so focused up with the NWF and then of course our show that we were doing on Sunday. So I didn't keep up with everything else that was going on. Although I know this coming weekend is the AEW pay-per-view.
Yes. Which is looking fantastic. of just the looks of the card alone is going to be, I don't know, it's going to give Mania, I feel like, a run for its money.
Oh yeah, and because they recognize that, look, we're competing with them, so we need to step it up, because they also want to be trending #1 in Antarctica and MySpace. So but but shall I go ahead and just tell our contacting listening info? I can't talk today. I really can't. So if anybody would like to email us, it's armchairbookingpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/armchairbookingpodcast. You can find us on Instagram at the same thing. And actually, they're kind of connected in a way. You can also find us on Twitter at Booking Armchair. You can find us on TikTok at Armchair Booking. And you cannot find us on Snapchat because we don't do that for this podcast.
No.
Obviously, if you're watching the video, you can find us on YouTube. And you can find us on just about any kind of audio platform that you can think of. We're on there, even if they don't have all of our episodes, like iHeartRadio.
Yep.
They still suck. And, of course, we're hosted by Block Talk Radio. And one thing I keep forgetting to do, I haven't actually done it in a while, if you would actually like to hit up Dwaylen on Twitter, it's at fat_daddy73.
Yep.
And you can probably also find him on Facebook, but
yeah, you can find me on Facebook, but yeah.
And because he and I are the two admins for the Armchair Booking page on Facebook, which we haven't done a lot with that lately. But I mean, I have a feeling we may just be ramping that up some. Just
because, I think so. Yeah.
Doing the Facebook group pages, I've kind of noticed it's a little difficult sometimes to get stuff going on those. It's odd. But I mean, I do know people are paying attention to it, so because I've seen people share the links, and
me too.
Oh yeah, thank you so much to everyone who's been sharing those links. Any little bit helps, and if you can, I know on Apple Podcasts you can actually go on there and give us a review, give us a 5-star rating. Definitely give us a review, because that's how we know how we're doing. And if whatever rating you give us, let us know why you gave us that rating.
Right.
So, and
we also have merchandise.
We do.
The shirt that I'm wearing now on tpublic.com. We have shirts, mugs, masks, cell phone covers. They have a ton of different products on there, so go check that out as well.
Oh yeah, tpublic.com/user/armchair-booking-podcast, and you can find every single bit of it. And I do believe that's everything.
I think that's everything. Yeah.
I think that's everything. And so, yes, do all that. We appreciate all the support. We really do. And actually, one thing I will say, one thing that as soon as I saw it, I was like, yes, was Noah Gabriel was wearing our shirt.
Yes.
And he wore it while they were doing the pictures, because before the event started, they were doing the Polaroid pictures, $5 a piece going in. He was wearing it for that. So a lot of people have now seen.
Awesome.
Awesome. And that's when later on he's like, I got to say hi to my friend Steve. And, we got a picture taken with me and him wearing the same shirt, because I do try to make it a point to wear the shirt at every NWF event I go, really all the wrestling events I go to.
Yeah.
Because on the 12th, there's going to be something in Chillicothe, Ohio, that it's going to be a meet and greet plus, an actual wrestling card. And I plan on wearing that shirt there too. So, but more details about that later, because we got to get started about the bumpy road to this year's WrestleMania.
This road got off to a rough start with the Rumble.
Yeah.
Actually, honestly, it got off to a rough start with day one.
Yeah.
Roman having COVID, not his fault at all. Completely understandable why he couldn't defend his title. But I still say there was no, if they weren't going to have that match, Roman versus Brock for the Universal title, then it should have just gave Brock the night off and not insert him in the WWE title match and have him win it. And then he goes on, wins the Rumble, then wins the Chamber, wins the title back. It's like they're trying to do all of this they're trying for it to be mysterious when there's no mystery to it at all. It's like as soon as Brock won the WWE title at day one, we both knew, and I'm sure millions of other people knew what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm. And and we've been saying, Joel and I will share the opinion that, of course, boosting Brock Lesnar to the top and having him be the main focal point is not the way to go for the company.
No, because you can't have your main event scene can't be one guy.
Right.
Because then it's like if you have that guy squash everybody, which they found that out during John Cena's Super Cena run.
Mm-hmm.
John Cena beat everybody. So then it's like, so then they're having to throw people out there as challengers that you wouldn't normally think, oh, well, that's, you don't, some of these people you don't look at as world title contenders. Like when John Cena wrestled the Great Khali at One Night Stand, it's like, okay, size alone, Khali had the size, but that's all he had.
But the Khali has size over everybody, though.
Yeah, exactly. but he just, he had the size. But then there were guys like Mark Henry who should have beat John Cena for the WWE title and didn't, because they didn't see Mark Henry as a main event guy. And even though if you look at his Hall of Pain run, that was like the best work of his career. But they're doing the same thing with Brock. They're having Brock squash the entire main event scene. And then they're going to be like, well, we don't have anybody for Brock to face. What do we do? Well, you don't bury your entire main event scene is what you do.
And, I'm going to throw some comparisons to Hogan. When Hogan was in the middle of the first Hulkamania run, when he first won the title from the Sheik.
The 4.5 year run.
Right. They threw everybody at him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were throwing monsters at him. Bundy, Stud. They actually, Savage was at a part of that too. A lot of people forget about that. Before, his run with the Macho Mania.
Yeah.
And then of course later on, I mean, I think even maybe in his second one, they still had like the Barbarian. They had the Warlord. Boss Man. I mean, they had all these people at him, threw at him, and you thought in every single match against him that they were going to beat him. So Hogan kind of was, it was never squashes with Hogan. He would win at the end.
Yeah.
But in a way, though, I mean, he was building them by letting them have the advantage for quite a while, where you thought, oh no, Bundy's going to win the title. And
well, Honky Tonk Man said in an interview, this has been years ago, and they were asking him about Hogan and like, how did he feel like about losing to Hogan every night? And he said being in the ring with Hogan at that time was where the money was.
Mm-hmm.
So you were getting big paydays if you were wrestling Hulk Hogan. He's like, so I didn't have any problem with that. He's like, because you see, I went on to win the Intercontinental title and still have the longest Intercontinental title reign. But he's like, but that was the thing. He's like, that's why guys back then didn't really have an issue. He said most of the guys really didn't have an issue knowing they were going to lose to Hogan, because when you got to the pay window, you got a big payday.
Yeah.
And but now it's not like that. I mean, they've cut out all the incentives. They've even started cutting out downside guarantees from people's contracts. So there's no big paydays to be had wrestling Brock Lesnar.
Right.
Especially when, even back then with Hogan, guys got their offense in. Guys were made, they looked strong. Everybody fell to Hogan. We just know it was what it was. But like you said, those weren't squash matches. With Brock, it's like if you get a full length match, then it's suplex after suplex, 2 or 3 F5s, and that's about it. Other than that, though, you're getting like the match at Elimination Chamber. You're getting like the match, like his participation in the Rumble was 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
His participation in the Chamber was less than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like that's what you're getting. Now, I will give Austin Theory credit. Austin Theory got over that night.
He did. He really did.
He worked his tail off. But the other guys in that match, I mean, Brock broke out of the pod. He hit the ring, F5, and he's not F5 in like rookies. He's going in there destroying AJ Styles, Seth Rollins, multiple times.
Former Universal Champion, another former WWE champion. And then somebody was already gone, I think.
I'm trying to think who was gone. Let's see. They took Bobby out.
Bobby was gone. Already gone.
Theory was last. Brock, AJ.
Who was the
Seth, and who was the other one?
See, that shows you how well we wanted to remember Elimination Chamber.
I can't remember who it was, but it's just and now they're saying that the Brock Lesnar Roman Reigns match is now, champion versus champion, title for title, unification match.
Riddle.
That's it. Riddle was gone because Riddle took a curb stomp from Seth Rollins. I think he got pinned.
Yep.
Yeah. And then Brock came in.
Oh no, actually, you know what? He took the curb stomp. I'm just now reading. Brock actually eliminated all of them.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, I remember the curb stomp, but
Okay.
But sorry.
But Brock eliminates the field in a matter of minutes, and it's like these are 3 world-class athletes that you're just letting him run through. So so then if you try to bring these guys up to be title contenders, people are going to be like, oh, well, that's the guy that Brock Lesnar beat in, less than a minute.
Yeah, he smacked him around like he stole something.
Exactly. And then, but now they've got, and me and my brother were talking about this. He's like, you do not need all of this for the main event match. You do not need both titles because then you're taking away a world title opportunity from somebody else.
From really 2 people. Think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're taking away shots from two people that could be going against them.
Yep. And then, but like I said, it's going to be champion versus champion, title for title, title versus title, unification match. From what I saw today, it was on WrestleZone. I can't remember the reporter's name. I'll have to go back and look. But he was saying that the rumors are that they plan on unifying the titles for about a cup of coffee. Because the networks, more than likely, and this is all speculation from everybody, but I can completely see it as happening. The networks are not going to want one world champion, even if that champion floats between both shows. They're going to want, because Fox is going to want a world champion for their show, and USA is going to want a world champion for their show. So I don't even understand why, and they know this. WWE is, that's one thing I will give them. They understand the corporate side of things. They know where their bread is buttered. They know these TV deals, and they know at the end of the day the companies have more power than they do because the networks are writing the checks.
Yep.
So if USA says, well, we want the world champion over here, and Fox says we want the world champion over here, they're going to have 2 because they're not going to want, each of them is going to want their own champion. They're not going to want to share one champion between shows. Because the only way that's really going to work is if they would have to get rid of the brand split, which again, the networks aren't going to want that either.
Nope.
But they would have to get rid of the brand split. That way the entire roster is together and the champion just shows up on both shows. Like Steve Austin, The Rock, and every other guy that did during Attitude, Ruthless Aggression, before they did the brand split and all that. Guys showed up. SmackDown was a continuation of whatever happened on Raw. But they're not going to do that either. So really, this match doesn't need to be taking place at all. We've already seen this twice at WrestleMania, and the last time they did it at WrestleMania, it was garbage. It was just a terrible match from start to finish.
And it was in Dallas.
and it was in Dallas.
Yeah, I just thought about that.
Yeah. The only match that they've had at WrestleMania that was good was the one that Seth cashed in on.
Yep. By the way, I called that too. The wildest prediction I've ever gotten correct. Because I texted Waylon, you know Seth's going to cash in, right?
Yeah, I remember you texted me that. And then he did it. I'm like, he called it. He did.
Yep.
But I know I could go on the entire show about this, but this is just one of those things. This is way too convoluted for a WrestleMania main event.
Yes, and it's going to mean the last night because now they are hellbound for leather. They're going to do 2 nights from now on, which I'm fine with.
I'm fine with because I don't have I'm too old to be sitting there for 6 hours straight. I love pro wrestling, but I also got to work. I also got to work in the next morning, and I can't be doing all that. Yeah. So I'm glad that they're sticking with the 2-night format. Roman and Brock will be the main event of night 2. They've already announced the main event of night 1 will be Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey for the SmackDown Women's Championship. We all know Ronda Rousey's walking out of there with the title. They're not putting her in they didn't bring her back, have her win the Rumble, have her march through Sonya Deville and Charlotte Flair to get to WrestleMania, only for her to come up short. She's leaving.
Yeah. And one of the things, I guess they're already having problems with Ronda because she still can't handle being booed by anybody. Because, I mean, even the most popular baby faces ever would still have the people who are going to boo them. Well, she thinks she should only be getting cheers. And it's like, that's not how professional wrestling works.
That's not how wrestling works. I mean, if she really wants to understand how that works, go ask The Rock, who heard "Die Rocky Die."
Yeah.
When he was Rocky Maivia.
Yeah.
Literally, people would have signs in the crowd and chant "Die Rocky Die." So what did he do? He just used that as fuel.
Yeah.
Became the best heel in the business, and then became the best face in the business when he turned face.
Now he's the highest paid entertainer in Hollywood, which is wild.
I mean, like I told you before, the man's already beat. If this was a video game, he's already beat the main story, and he's just doing side missions now. The dude is just untouchable. I mean, and that's Ronda's got to realize that fans are going to boo you or fans are going to cheer you, and you can't take that to heart because that's what wrestling's all about. People have the right to cheer. If they don't like you, they're going to boo. That's just how it is. You can't. Nobody, even I don't care. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat was one of the greatest faces of all time.
Yes,
and he still got booed on occasion. There were still people in the crowd that did not like Ricky Steamboat
because he was too squeaky clean.
Yes, he was too squeaky clean, or he beat Ric Flair, or whatever the case may be. It's just you can be the most white meat baby face ever, and you're still going to get booed. So she may as well just take it to heart. She may as well just take it to heart that this is the business that I've chose to be in. So I'm going to have to just let this roll off my back because they've had to talk to her backstage several times and tell her, you're the face in this. You've got to smile more. You can't have that scowl on your face all the time. Yeah. Cause it's like, honestly, it's like when my 3-year-old is pouting because she didn't get her way. Yeah. That's the face that Ronda has on. And it's like, you can't expect the fans, especially how she conducted herself after she lost the title at WrestleMania and then took the time off because she wanted to start a family. I commend that. Yep. Bravo. Congratulations on your daughter, all that. But you can't be on social media and on interviews bashing the fans that help put the money in your pocket that you earned from this business.
Yep.
And wrestling fans don't forget.
No, they don't.
A lot of these wrestling fans remember how much trash she talked about the fans while she was gone. So she should go in it not expecting to be well liked by the same people that she talked crap about for a year and a half.
Yeah. And that's why when she came back, I was like, no, she didn't. Oh, okay, she's back. And I'm like you said, wrestling fans don't forget. I'm like, she
Mm-mm.
walked out and she burned like every bridge there was and somehow rebuilt it. And
So, and some people, like, there were people that were glad there was back. I am not in that. I'm not in that group. I'm not glad
I'm not
she's
either.
back because one, I feel like she does not have any respect for the business. I feel like that she's Brock Lesnar. She's
Yeah.
female Brock Lesnar. Both of
Oh
them.
yeah.
They don't have the respect for the business. They figure I made my name over here, so the privileges that I earned over here should carry over to my new line of work. And so far it's worked for both of them. But that's at the expense of both divisions.
Yep.
Because now Ronda is the focal point of the women's division. So every other woman not named Charlotte Flair that, has worked hard all year, even, come back from injuries, things like that. Like Sasha's come back from injuries. It looks like her and Naomi are going to challenge for the women's tag team titles. There's absolutely nothing wrong with Naomi and Sasha being a team or challenging for the tag titles. But Naomi put on a fantastic match with Charlotte Flair a few weeks
Yeah,
ago
she
on
did.
SmackDown.
That match was awesome.
Sasha Banks was in the main event of WrestleMania last year in the match of the year, in our opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Why are these women not in the title picture when they're there consistently? Ronda's gone for almost 2 years, shows back up and gets the red carpet main event treatment.
I thought it was closer to 3 years, wasn't it?
Yeah, you could be right. Yeah.
Yeah, because she was gone way before the pandemic, and
yeah, she was gone before the pandemic because Becky was gone for a year and a half.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's closer to 3 years she's been gone, and they just roll out the red carpet for her when she shows back up because they're like, oh well, Ronda Rousey's name recognition, the casual fan will know who Ronda Rousey is, and it's like not how you run a business.
No.
I own a small business, and I know that's not, I'm not a huge corporate conglomerate or whatever, but I understand business, and that's not how you run it.
No. And like when Alexa Bliss, however many years ago, called her the overhyped rookie.
Yeah.
I think part of that was a shoot. I mean, I think that's how she really felt.
Yeah, and the thing is, she's still a rookie. I mean, she only wrestled for a year. She wrestled from WrestleMania to WrestleMania.
Yep.
Yeah, she only wrestled for a year. She's still a rookie, and not Kurt Angle rookie. I mean, Kurt Angle was probably the most amazing rookie I've ever seen in my life to never have any background in pro wrestling and to take to it that quickly.
Yeah.
And to get that good that quick. I do not feel that Ronda is as good at pro wrestling as people want to believe she is, because Shayna Baszler is so much better at Ronda Rousey than Ronda Rousey is at pro wrestling.
And I think Shayna Baszler, she understands it a lot better. And because one of the things, and this may seem like a simple thing to people, especially like the casual fan who doesn't notice things like this, like what me and Dwaylen have noticed for 40 years, is unless you're in Mexico, you work on the left side of the body. How many times does she grab the right arm to do the arm bar?
Yep.
And no, I mean, every time I see it, I'm not a wrestler, but I still cringe going, hey, no, wrong arm.
Yeah.
Sometimes you see wrestlers work on the right leg.
Yeah.
Because Dusty worked on the right leg because when he did the figure 4, he curved around the right leg, whereas in Flair did it off the left leg.
Yep.
But just something simple like that. Like, hey, Ronda, wrong arm.
Yeah. But for me, the biggest difference between Ronda and Shayna is Shayna understands her job. Like you see on social media, Shayna gets the assignment. She completely understands what she's supposed to be doing. She's the heel. So she's going to play up the fact that she's the heel, and she's going to do the dastardly things, and she's going to, she's going to make sure you don't like her. But by doing that, if you listen to fans when she comes out, she gets just as many cheers as she does boos because people know she's legit.
She's good.
Yeah.
And that's why they cheer her.
Yep.
Just like with Roman, you know, when he finally came back as a heel, which everybody had been saying for years.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, when The Rock was getting booed by the people,
Yeah.
turn him heel, boom, he got huge.
Oh yeah.
And they couldn't understand that with Roman for some reason. He finally came back, became heel, and has had his greatest run of his career as a heel.
Yep.
But now the fans are actually starting to cheer him when he comes out, and he'll say, Hopkinsville.
Yeah.
Acknowledge me. And they will say it right there with him.
And
then
they'll say it with him. They'll say it with him. They'll put the finger in the air. And it's like he's over. He is more over now than I would say, other than him being in the Shield. This is the most over Roman has ever been. And it's because WWE got out of his way and let him feed into that anger from the fans.
And, you know, and then they'll cheer that, and then they'll go, okay, now it's time to boo him because we're booing.
Yeah, because we're booing a heel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the fans respect, they respect the work that he's put into this heel run, but he's still a heel, and it's like, we're still going to boo him because we still want somebody to beat him and shut him up. Because he's talked about how good he is, and he's proven how good he is every single time. So we need somebody. It's one of those, we're paying to see him get beat up, but we respect him at the same time.
And his new finisher is legit. I mean,
the guillotine choke. Yeah,
the guillotine. I mean, he's the only person to ever submit Bill Goldberg.
Yeah. Yep.
And
did it out of the jackhammer attempt.
Yes. So that right there, I mean, even though Bill Goldberg is in his 50s, nobody had ever done that. Either one. You know, so that's still, I mean, because Bill Goldberg is as much as what we're like, okay, bring somebody else in because we're tired of seeing Goldberg. Once again, he's another one. He comes in every 3 years, he's in the world title picture, then he leaves again.
Yeah.
And somebody else who's been waiting for that spot forever is like, well, I guess I'm going to be waiting here, you know, another 6 months.
Yeah.
But this time, I mean, he got in there and we said, if Goldberg wins, we're going to riot in our own living rooms. And Roman took him. I'm like, and it was a short 6.5 minute match.
Yeah. And that's all it needed to be, because that's all you're going to get out of Goldberg anyway. That's where WWE made their mistake when he came in 2003, was they tried to have him have WWE style matches. They tried to have him have these 20-25 minute matches. That was never his strong suit.
Nope.
It was smash and grab. It's like, you give him a good 6-7 minutes or less. That's what pulled people into Goldberg. He came in, he smashed people, he left. And I think they finally figured that out, and they put him in a better position. Now it's the problem is he's 55 years old and doesn't need to be in the ring taking somebody's spot. Right.
And now, I mean, I guess his contract is up and he's kind of a free agent. So
yeah, he said this may have been his last match. I don't know, but he's another one.
He said like 6 years ago.
But he's also another one. You've said previously on a show that you should not go into the Hall of Fame until after you're retired.
Right.
And I completely agree with that. And they've got way too many Hall of Famers that are still wrestling.
Yep. And when they put them in the Hall of Fame, they were retired. And then all of a sudden they came back out.
Yeah. It's like, wrestling is the only sport that you see that in. You don't see NBA players or Major League Baseball players or NFL players. Once they retire, they're done.
Yeah. And, you know, and now granted, I'll give Flair and I'll give Sting kind of a pass because yes, they went back active, but they did not do it in the WWE active.
Yeah. Sting. Yeah. And I'll give Sting credit because Sting is 60 years old. But Sting is doing what wrestlers his age should be doing. You don't see Sting in the world title picture in AEW.
Right.
You see him working with the undercard guys. You see him working with Darby Allin. mentoring him. You see him working with Andrade. He's working with Matt Hardy, things like that, to help get other guys, to help give other guys that rub and move them up the card. And that's how a veteran should be used. But instead, you're going to have Brock Lesnar in the main event at WrestleMania. We had Bill Goldberg, title match at Elimination Chamber. Lita had a title match at Elimination Chamber. And it's just
another Hall of Famer, actually. Lita.
Another Hall of Famer. And it's like, you can't build to the biggest show of the year when you're not utilizing your current roster, and you just it makes it seem like, oh, well, I don't have any faith in the people that I'm paying to wrestle every week on TV and pay-per-view, so I have to go pull out Brock Lesnar, Ronda Rousey, Lita, Goldberg, Steve Austin, because they're still talking about doing Steve Austin versus Kevin Owens. They're still hyping that up. Kevin Owens is talking crap about Texas on social media and on on TV every week. So they're bringing back Austin, who's 57 years old. And granted, he's not in the title picture, and I love Stone Cold. I'm a huge Stone Cold fan. Kevin Owens deserves better than this match. He deserves better than to have a match with a 57-year-old retired wrestler who has not wrestled a single match in 19 years.
And who had to retire legitimate medical reasons.
Yeah, legitimate injuries. Who's got 2 bad knees and a bad neck. And Kevin Owens deserves to be, in my opinion, that WWE title match. Kevin Owens should be in that match. Kevin Owens deserves, because he is consistently one of the best things, one of the few bright points of Monday Night Raw, week in and week out. He should definitely be in the title picture, but he's not getting a championship match because they put all their eggs in one basket for the unification match.
And one of the things, you studied IT and computer science.
Yep.
I know because my bachelor's is in IT, and one of the things, like almost every class I did, they stressed never ever create a single point of failure. And that's what this feels like, is a single point of failure. What happens if Brock 2 days before WrestleMania, because of COVID protocols, they're making everybody test, and guess what? All of a sudden, Brock or Roman, either one of them, test positive.
Or what if there's a rash of positive COVID tests? Roman's going home, and I don't blame him.
I don't blame him either.
Roman's in remission from leukemia, so Roman's going home. He's done it before. He's going home, and I don't blame him one single bit, because I would do the same thing. He's got to protect himself. He has a family to take care of. But they haven't thought this out. They're just like, we've got to get all this mainstream attention, and we've got to get, we got to get as many eyes on the product as we can. But the thing is, you can have millions of eyes on your product, but if those eyes are seeing a subpar product, then word of mouth goes a long way. And in this area of social media, if that show is bad, people are going to be all over social media talking about how bad that show was, because they were with the Chamber and they were with the Rumble.
I just not thought about something. I believe we were wrong when we said that the last time they went against each other was also in Dallas.
Was it not?
It was not Dallas. I'm looking right now, because it was New Orleans. They were against each other.
Oh, that's right, because they went to New Orleans in 30, and then
in 34.
34, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Because 33, that was the year, I believe, let me verify it, that Triple H had, he pulled that crap where he won the title from Roman at
at the Rumble. Yeah, because that was their idea of where we're going to get Roman over by putting him against Triple H.
And people still don't like
work.
it.
Well, it didn't work because Triple H was the one getting cheered.
Yeah.
And Roman was still getting booed. So that didn't work. The only time Roman got cheered is when he speared Stephanie.
Now I'm looking 33. It was Reigns against The Undertaker.
So was it 32?
Maybe it was 32. But yeah, when they were in, 30. Okay, 30 was New Orleans. 31 was in San Francisco. That was when Seth cashed in. Am I right? And
I think
then
so.
Yeah, so it would have been come on now. Okay, so 33 was in Orlando. So it had to have been 32 then, which would have been in Dallas. And it just now hit me. The reason I remember this is because there's a friend of mine. God, I was about to call him a kid. He ain't a kid. He's like almost 40. But I was a supervisor in Afghanistan, right? Huge wrestling fan. And he was stationed in San Antonio at the time, and he managed to go watch. It was 32. He actually managed to go to Arlington to watch that WrestleMania.
Oh, cool.
Because remember what we were talking about before we started recording? How many tickets are they short right now?
They are short right now. From what I heard on What Culture News this morning, they have 40,000 tickets. That's 20,000 for each night that they still got to move, which is odd because this is almost March 1st and WrestleMania is generally sold out by now. And they still have 40,000 tickets that they haven't sold yet.
Well, Corey, my friend, he actually got the tickets. It was just a couple of weeks before the event. Well, you got to remember that thing seats over 100,000 people.
Yeah.
So they'd still have, it sounds like they have 80,000 sold, but that also means they're still going to have 20,000 seats empty. And that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's 20% empty. And
especially when, we've only had fans since last May or June when their first show back with fans was Money in the Bank last year. So you would think, I know they had fans at WrestleMania, but it was limited. So this would be the first year since the pandemic started that that there wouldn't be limited seating and all that due to COVID.
Right.
That they could, and so you would think those tickets would just fly, but they still got 40,000 to move.
Well, because I remember Corey, he actually texted me while the Lesnar, and it was against Dean Ambrose, that street fight, while it was going on. And he said every time he does a German on Ambrose, they have a counter that they're flashing for the people in the ring. I was like, I said, no crap. You take a picture of it, send it to me. He did. He took a picture of it and he sent it to me, and they were all like on like number 13. So I was like, that's right. He was there watching that. But so hopefully Corey's listening right now. Because I mean, I know before he said he's trying to give a listen. I don't know where he's stationed right now. I think he might be deployed. Because he's mentioned. I know he's not physically in San Antonio, but since he hasn't said where exactly he's at, I have a feeling he's deployed somewhere. So probably not somewhere nice either.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's it just kind of hit me. I was like, wait a minute, that was not in Texas. Had been somewhere else. But yeah, it was with him and Brock. And actually it was one of those, wasn't it the second time with him and Brock, the people actually got up and they were walking out during the match? Or was that Triple H?
I can't remember if people walked out then. I know him and Samoa Joe at Backlash. I think it was Backlash that same year. I think that was the next pay-per-view. Yeah, people walked out like it was him and Joe in the main event, and people walked out halfway through the main event.
That was a great match. That should have been perfect too, because Samoa Joe against a Samoan named Joe.
Yeah.
But
the way that they're doing WrestleMania, it's like there's no surprises.
Yeah.
There's no mystery to it. I mean, we all know We're getting, we all know this whole thing with Drew McIntyre and Madcap Moss is leading to McIntyre and Corbin at WrestleMania. I'm sorry, that's not a match I'm interested in seeing.
No, me neither.
Drew McIntyre is going to win. That's a TV match. That's a house show match. That is not a WrestleMania match. I remember when, and I know it's a high bar to reach nowadays, but WrestleMania 17, there was not a bad match on that card.
No, there wasn't.
And this is when the hardcore title was in full swing, and the triple threat with Kane, Big Show, and Raven over the hardcore title was an excellent match for what it was.
Right.
But there wasn't a bad match on that card. WWE is capable of making great WrestleMania cards. They've done it several times in the past. But it's like they're not putting any effort into it. They're just going by, well, it's WrestleMania, people will buy it.
And get
it's WrestleMania, people. Yeah, they get complacent. And the thing is, you don't have the Undertaker streak. A lot of those WrestleManias during the latter days of the Undertaker streak, that's what sold WrestleMania for people. That's what moved tickets, was people came to see if the streak was going to get broken. Once they broke it, nobody cared.
Yeah. And some of my notes that I have for this, and we try not to focus on negative, but unfortunately there's quite a bit of negative. Vince might wrestle.
Yes. Vince might wrestle. Again, not only is the 76-year-old chairman rumored to be wrestling, taking a spot, and there's no story to this. Vince has wrestled on WrestleMania cards before, but there was a story and a reason why. This is him and Pat McAfee. No disrespect against Pat McAfee. He put on an excellent match at a takeover in NXT against Adam Cole. He did so much better than I thought he did, but Pat McAfee's only wrestled 2 or 3 matches. So you're going to have an announcer and the chairman have a match. So that's 2 spots that could be had. They still don't. Kevin Owens still doesn't have a booked match. Seth Rollins doesn't have a booked match.
No, he doesn't, does he?
No, right. I think they're going to have them as a tag team. They've been teaming together on Raw, and from what I saw last week, their chemistry is good, and they work good together as a team. So maybe, I hate to have just singles guys thrown together as a tag team, but this seems to be working. And with the limited tag division that there is, maybe they'll have Seth and KO, challenge for the tag titles.
I wouldn't mind that.
No, I wouldn't either. But look at how many spots on the WrestleMania card are being taken up by part-timers, or I like to say either part-timers or no-timers.
Yeah.
The no-timers are Vince McMahon, Pat McAfee, Johnny Knoxville.
Yes.
And the rumor is that Johnny Knoxville and Sami Zayn are going to wrestle at WrestleMania for the Intercontinental title. For the title that Randy Savage and Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect, Steve Austin, The Rock, the title that those guys made famous.
Yeah. Pedro Morales, Tito Santana, Greg Valentine.
The
Steamboat and Savage, WrestleMania 3. Oh my Lord.
Yeah. The title that these men elevated, in my opinion, for me, I always enjoyed the Intercontinental title matches more than I did the world title matches. That was the workhorse title. And they have shown so much disrespect for that championship over the years that now it's like, oh, well, we're just going to treat it like a joke and have Sami Zayn defended against Johnny Knoxville at WrestleMania. Just because there's a new Jackass movie out and we are desperate for mainstream exposure.
Oh, and that's actually one of my other notes. Too much emphasis on celebrities when the WWE does not need them. Think about this: Johnny Knoxville and Logan Paul, they are not exactly top tier celebrities.
Exactly. Logan Paul's another. That's another no timer. You get the Mysterios versus Miz and Logan Paul in a tag match at WrestleMania. Yeah, taking a spot.
And in the meanwhile, Dolph Ziggler is in NXT.
Yep. And Bobby Roode.
And Bobby Roode. They're both in
Yeah.
NXT.
Yep.
And that's not disrespecting NXT. Those two should be with the main roster. They should still be with the main roster. I mean, and I know they may be trying to bring up NXT, and I get that, but still.
But these are former world champions.
Yes.
You know, both of these, you know, both Ziggler and Roode are former world champions. Roode is a former TNA world champion.
Mm-hmm.
He's an NXT champion. Dolph Ziggler is a former world heavyweight champion. You know, these are world-class athletes that are sitting in developmental, and, you know, they have the experience to help teach these guys, and I think that's great. But with WrestleMania season, these guys are sitting in developmental while Logan Paul and Johnny Knoxville and, you know, Vince McMahon himself and Pat McAfee are taking their spots.
Yeah. And, you know, I see Charlotte and Ronda main event first night, but Becky and Bianca is more appealing.
Yes, absolutely. That is the more interesting story, because this will go full circle from SummerSlam of last year.
Yep.
This has been, you know, this has been the story, and they've implemented this story off and on throughout, you know, this entire run. There's no story with Ronda and Charlotte. It's just Ronda won the Rumble. Charlotte's the bad guy that everybody hates. So Ronda picked Charlotte, but she didn't pick her for either of those reasons. She didn't pick her because she was the champion. She didn't pick her because everybody hates her. It's just, I'm picking Charlotte in main event in WrestleMania. And it's like, where's the story?
Right. You know, I mean, and yeah, I get the match is for the title, which under normal circumstances, that would be all the reason you need. But because Ronda is still, this will be what, her fourth match, you know, since if you include the Rumble.
Yeah, if you include the Rumble, this will be her. Let's see, if you include the Rumble, you've got the Rumble, you've got the Chamber match. This will be her third match.
Yeah, and she may have one in between now and then, but
yeah.
And so, yeah, you think the locker room are a little bit irritated?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
3 matches into your return, and you main event WrestleMania.
Yeah. So meanwhile, Alexa Bliss, who also returned at the Chamber.
Exactly. Alexa Bliss has no match. My thing went off because I said that name. I wasn't thinking when I said it. Alexa, stop. Okay, sorry guys. But Miss Bliss has no match. Asuka has nothing. Creative doesn't have anything for Asuka, and she's ready to come back. She's been medically cleared. And how do you not have anything for Asuka to do?
Yeah, I mean,
and they're like, well, the writers don't have any storylines to put her in. She doesn't need a storyline. She's Asuka. Put her in a match. If you're just handing out title matches, give me Asuka and Charlotte, so Asuka can make right them breaking her streak, having Charlotte break her streak at WrestleMania that year. I would much rather see Asuka and Charlotte. Give me Asuka and Ronda Rousey.
I say, give me Asuka and Ronda Rousey. I think actually that might be a little bit more appealing, because Asuka, I mean,
give me Asuka and Ronda Rousey. Give me Asuka and Shayna Baszler.
Yeah.
Give me those type of matches. Asuka tells the story. And the thing is, it's like, to bring somebody back, I don't feel like that you have to have a ready-made story. The story's told in the ring. Just put 2 people in the ring and let them tell the story. Right.
I mean, you may have a backstory. Hopefully it's not something stupid like they caught us shaving each other's backs. And yes, for people at home, that was a real thing a few years ago.
I'm so glad that FTR left WWE and went, and, you know, because AEW has been a breath of fresh air for them. They have let them come in and just do what they do great, and that's tag team wrestling.
Yep. And also I didn't read the entire story, but I did see the headline. It said Elias right now, they're in creative purgatory with him. They don't know what to do with him.
They didn't have to do anything. It was working.
Everybody wanted to walk with Elias.
Exactly. Everybody, those shirts were flying. Those Walk with Elias shirts.
I have
They,
one.
yeah,
I have one with Elias
they were
shirt.
selling those like hotcakes, and it's like I don't understand when they mess with something that works. I just don't understand it. It's like he's over. He was enjoying himself. His gimmick was over. He was moving merchandise.
Yes.
Everybody is not going to be a main event guy. You know that going in. Everybody has that dream of possibly being a world champion one day. But realistically, not everybody can be. That's why there's different divisions.
Not everybody should be.
And not everybody should be. But his gimmick is working.
Mm-hmm.
It was working perfectly. You know, he wasn't Bryan Danielson in the ring, but he could give you a good match.
Mm-hmm.
And
absolutely,
they should have left it at that, but they just had to keep messing with it. And it's like, part of the problem is stop hiring TV writers for a professional wrestling show.
Because
the only thing, here's the only, the only things that are alike. They write for TV. Your wrestling program is on TV. It's where the similarities end.
Mm-hmm.
If you want a good wrestling show, get people that are involved in the business. Get actual wrestlers or managers or referees, people that are intricate in the business and understand it to write your show. But the problem is they don't want a professional wrestling show.
They want an entertainment show.
They want an entertainment show that just happens to involve wrestling.
And I think that this just not occurred to me, because when they said now they pretty much want only homegrown talent. Mm-hmm. They don't want anybody coming from the indies.
Yeah.
Because most of the indies, and this includes like the NWF, this includes Larry D's organization down in Cynthiana. This includes some of the other ones, all over the place, across the country, across the world. When they teach them how to wrestle, of course, they're teaching them, how to take the bumps, and they're teaching them the moves, and they're teaching them, how to, okay, we need to develop your character. Okay, now we're going to teach you how to do promos. What they do not teach them is, okay, read the script.
Exactly.
Yeah. They say, there's 3 bullet points I want you to hit in your promo that you're going to give me, and you have 1 minute to do it. Go.
And if you look across the history of wrestling, the absolute best promos, whether it is NWA, Mid-South, Memphis, whether it's, was WCW when they were at their hottest point, whether it's now AEW, Ring of Honor, the absolute best promos are not scripted.
Right.
Like you said, you hit your bullet points. Here's your allotted time on your promo. These are the things you need to get in to basically advertise the match. And that's it. You go, the rest of it, you fill it in. One of the best promos I've heard in the last 5 years was Cody Rhodes' promo on AEW the few days before his match against Chris Jericho, where he said if he lost, he would never challenge for the AEW world title. That promo was fantastic. I would put that promo up against any scripted promo WWE puts out, because there's no beating Cody's promo on that. And that's the thing. And you can tell the passion when someone's able to actually give a promo where they're speaking as themselves and they're not just reading off a list. And
I have a feeling Elias, because some people look at him, he just knows how to do a few chords on the guitar. No,
the guy can play.
He can play.
He can play.
Yes, because when they were in New Orleans for WrestleMania 34, the night before, he was actually at a blues bar somewhere actually playing.
Cool.
Doing like a mini concert. I mean,
I listened to that EP that he put out, and the guy can play.
Yes.
It's not just a gimmick. He can play.
Did you happen to catch the event when they went to Australia a few years ago? I cannot remember the name of it, and I don't know why they've only been there once, because they packed the place. But I was watching it live. Now they've cut this out of the replay if you want to go watch it. But when he was in there with the guitar, an acoustic guitar, he started playing the intro to Thunderstruck.
Really?
Yes, and of course the crowd was just going crazy.
Yeah.
And I get, they cut it out of the replays because I get it, copyrights and things like
Yeah.
that. But it's the fact that he knew how to get over with the crowd, and I think maybe because they couldn't figure out, when they said in purgatory, the crowd didn't want to cheer him or they didn't want to boo him.
Yeah.
But when you put him as a face, all of a sudden you're cutting him because his promos were so good. That's why I think because he was writing songs.
Yeah. Because the thing is, they cut the legs out from under him by turning him face.
Yeah.
Because the promo work was so much better as a heel.
Yeah.
It was still good as a face, but that dynamic that he had with the crowd worked so much better when he was a heel.
Right.
Because
he was a cool heel.
Exactly. Because they would boo everything he said, especially when he talked about their hometown or talked about the fans or whatever. But when he said WWE stands for Walk with Elias, every person in that arena, it didn't matter if they hated him or loved him, everybody recited that line.
Because I'm pretty sure somebody went, boo, but walk with Elias.
Yeah. Yes.
Because I'm pretty sure I may have done that.
But it's like, I don't understand. You've got all these people that you have nothing for, but then it's like you're booking this show on the fly. It's like they're booking WrestleMania, the absolute biggest show of the WWE calendar. They're booking it on the fly. Yep. And they're just like, they're throwing everything at the wall to see if it sticks.
And that's not a good way to do things. And,
no.
And two more bullet points I got for this. The Hall of Fame induction, which normally that used to be part of WrestleMania weekend. It was always on the Saturday nights, of course.
Yep.
Now they're having it on the tail end of SmackDown, the Friday night before, which is not doing any justice to the Undertaker. They said that he's not. They did say, I think today, he's not going to be the only inductee.
Yeah,
it's a little over a month away. Y'all need to figure out something out.
Yeah, it's a little, but and usually by now they've already had 3 or 4 names at least.
I think they've run out of names of people who actually.
Well, they have. Well, the thing is, they've run out of names, but they haven't. It's just they've run out of people that they want to acknowledge, because the Midnight Express are still out in the Hall of Fame, and I know they didn't work for WWE, but neither did the Rock and Roll Express.
Rock and Roll Express worked like once or twice, and they said, "Oh, that counts."
Well, they worked in that little NWA invasion thing that they did in late '98.
And they were part of that tag team battle royal for that WrestleMania.
That's true, but they didn't work for WWE. They didn't work consistently in WWE. They didn't win the tag team titles or anything like that. So it's like, if they can get in, why is the Midnight Express not in? Why is Ivan Koloff not in? A former WWE champion. He beat Bruno
clean in the Garden.
So why is he not in? Abdullah the Butcher's in their Hall of Fame. Never worked a minute in WWE.
Now, he may have actually whipped out a fork and said, "I will stab you."
I mean, he might have. But it's like why there are certain people throughout history of wrestling that aren't in the Hall of Fame that deserve to be. And now you've gotten to the point to where it's like you've got the Undertaker and then crickets, because it's like we don't know who else to put in our Hall of Fame.
I saw a picture someone posted the other day, and I actually thought one of them was in, but I guess it's the Mandela effect on there. Bam Bam, Big Van Vader.
Yep, Bam Bam's not in. Vader's not in.
And see, Vader I thought was in, and it's like someone said no.
Nope. Vader's in just about every other wrestling Hall of Fame, but not that one. And the reason, and I know WWE probably looks at it like, well, Vader wasn't a big deal in WWE. That's your fault. You had Big Van Vader on your books, and you won. I'm a huge Shawn Michaels fan. Anybody that knows me knows that that's my favorite all-time wrestler.
But
but Vader should have mopped the floor with Shawn Michaels at SummerSlam that year.
Mm-hmm.
Vader should have walked out of that event as the WWF champion.
Oh, he should have. He should have shot on him.
Yeah, there's no reason why, as hot as Vader was, because I mean he's coming off some good stuff he did in WCW. I mean, he had a great run, 3-time WCW world champion. He's been the IWGP heavyweight champion.
Yep.
He's been him and Bam Bam were the IWG heavyweight tag team champions. All this. He's won titles on every continent. But he goes to WWE and Shawn Michaels throws a fit because he works too stiff. So because the original plan was for Vader to beat Shawn for the title until Shawn politicked and said Vader worked too stiff and got the match result changed. And by having Shawn Michaels beat Vader, they took all the mystique away. They took that, that monster aura away from Vader, and he never recovered.
You know who else should be in there?
Who?
Cornette.
Yes, Jim Cornette.
Yeah, and I get Cornette is extremely controversial because he does not know when to shut up, because he does not want to shut up, and that's fine. But I mean, you can.
And he's in a position where he doesn't have to shut up. Right. I mean, he has his own podcast. His podcast does extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
He can say what he wants. He's not on anybody else's dime.
Exactly. And you look at all the things he's done. We need to do an episode just on Jim Cornette. And I think
we do.
We'd ought to invite him.
Yeah.
Now he may charge us, but at least invite him to give a listen and say, hey, look, I'm right up the road one way. Dwaylen's right up the road the other way.
Yeah.
We're not too far away from you.
Yeah.
But to say, you look at everything, Jim Cornette has done everything there is to do in wrestling, and including wrestling a few matches. Yeah. But he started out as a photographer, and then he kind of moved up from there, became a manager, and became not just a manager. Therefore he became like the manager.
Yeah. He was, there for a while, especially, there for a while, it was Jim Cornette and JJ Dillon.
Yeah. And
then when the Horsemen broke up, because, guys were going to WWE and all that, Jim Cornette was the manager.
Yeah.
He was, he was the guy.
And then Paul Dangerly, remember that guy? Paul Dangerly showed up, and they were kind of going against each other. But then, he's been a promotion owner. I mean, he started Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
Yep. I mean, he was like, he was an executive with WWE. He was a commentator. He was a manager, things like that. Yeah, absolutely. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
And if you had
whether he would want to be or not is another question, but he deserves to be there.
I mean, he did induct the Rock and Roll Express in, and
that's true.
They're the ones who asked him.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have been there if they didn't ask him.
Yeah.
And you think about this, if you had to say, who would you designate in wrestling to be the historian? It would be Jim Cornette.
Jim Cornette, yeah.
He's been the one to really try to save and archive everything. He's the one who actually, he basically dumpster dived because he saw in Georgia, somebody was they were throwing away all this old films, and he's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And he snagged, he's like, mine now, and he just has such a brilliant mind for wrestling. I mean, that's why on Dark Side of the Ring, when they want to talk to somebody, they go to Cornette.
Yep.
And and he doesn't really get he gets fired up and emotional one way, but you could tell how close he was to Owen Hart too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I don't know if you heard, I actually did listen to Cornette's after Bobby Eaton passed away.
Mm-hmm.
That one was hard to listen to because
I
mean that was one of his best friends.
Yeah.
But Cornette absolutely needs to be in the Hall of Fame, and they're not even doing the Hall of Fame right or the Undertaker right this year because they're having it following SmackDown. They're like at 10:30 we're going to do the induction. Well, I know it's a Friday, it's all part of WrestleMania weekend, but still.
But here's the thing: a lot of people still work on weekends.
Yeah.
I mean, we're fortunate enough where we don't have to work on weekends, but I remember having jobs where I had to work every weekend.
Yep.
There are a lot of people still have to work on weekends. So it's like, you've got people that have just sat through SmackDown, and then you're going to expect them to stay for the Hall of Fame induction. So you're going to expect them to stay another 2 hours at least, and then drive home.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, they're not doing nothing about WrestleMania this year is, in my opinion, is being done correctly. Not the booking, not the promoting, because all they're promoting is one match.
Mm-hmm.
They're just promoting. They're all of their promotion has gone into Brock versus Roman. And here's the thing: they keep trying to get people to believe that this is the greatest WrestleMania match of all time. It absolutely is not. I will say this until the day God calls me home. The greatest WrestleMania match of all time is still Ricky Steamboat versus Randy Savage at WrestleMania 3.
Yep.
That match, Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 25.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Austin versus The Rock at WrestleMania 17. Those are my top 3 for greatest WrestleMania matches of all time. Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns is not going to ever touch any of those 3 matches.
No. I'll even throw in TLC 2 also at WrestleMania 17.
Yes.
Just because that match was just wild from a word go.
Yeah.
Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels.
Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I love you. That one.
Shawn Michaels, Kurt Angle from WrestleMania 21.
Yeah. The ladder match, Shawn a lot. Shawn Michaels and Razor, WrestleMania 10.
Shawn tended to steal the show when he was there.
You know what? WrestleMania 10, Owen and Brett, the opening match.
Yes.
I mean, there's just so many matches in this match because my notes, Roman Brock, title versus title, not must-see TV either.
No, it's not, because, I mean, we've seen it. I mean, I understand the dynamics different.
But Craig Robinson. I seen it.
I seen it. I mean, come on. I've seen this match.
This isn't Austin Rock.
No, I've already caught, and that's what they're trying to. I feel like that's what they're trying to build it up as. This is this generation's version of Austin Rock.
A white dude and a Samoan dude.
Yeah, that's the only similarity.
And
nothing against Roman, because Roman, like we said, Roman's doing the best work of his career. And Roman being the heel and Brock being the face is the only difference in the dynamic.
Right.
But we're still going to get the same match. Unless Roman Reigns chokes out Brock Lesnar in the guillotine, we're going to get the same match.
Yeah.
We're going to get Superman punches. We're going to get spears. We're going to get suplexes. We're going to get the same match we got the other 2 times. And that's nothing against either guy's skill set, but it's like they don't mesh well.
They don't.
They just do not mesh well.
And you would think that somebody with Brock's legitimate amateur wrestling ability, that his matches will be better. But no, I mean, I don't think he's getting lazy, but I think he's just become so dependent on the same moves.
I don't think it's lazy. I think it's a lot of it comes from the top. I think it's like this is what the current crop of fans want. They just want to see Suplex City and an F5. So that's what you give them. Give them the bare minimum.
And we know he'll never try a shooting star press again.
No, he should not.
Because they didn't like seeing that to begin with, and then he almost broke his neck.
Yeah.
They
didn't like seeing him do it in OVW. And I mean, he did a pretty good one.
He did.
But that one at WrestleMania 19 was I knew it was going to be bad as soon as I saw the rotation, because I'm like, he did not get all the way around with that.
Right. And but I'm not looking forward to that match. I'll watch it just because I'm stupid and because I've already paid for the network. And I mean,
Same.
And one of the things about the first night, and I actually mentioned this to Jay and Trey because they were actually talking about it on their podcast, and I put in the comments, the first night conflicts with the final 4.
It does. I didn't even think about that, but it does.
Yep. And that's something they should have deconflicted.
Do they not have a sports calendar?
Oh, well, I mean, this isn't the first time they a few years ago, they had, I think it was the Rumble on, and it was the same night as the NFL. I think it was the conference championships.
Yeah. And what's going to happen is not only is they're not going to get the viewership that they're looking for,
not the live viewership anyway.
Not the live viewership. They'll
right.
get the on-demand viewership, but the live viewership they're not going to get because the Final Four trumps everything.
It does.
Monday, and then on Monday, if they were smart, they would talk to USA Network and be like, "Can we move Raw to Tuesday?" Because our ratings are going to be terrible because the national championship game trumps everything.
Yeah, the only thing that would actually draw in more viewers than the Final Four and the championship game would be the Super Bowl.
Yep,
that's it. Because every year, it's March Madness.
Yeah.
And last year was like the first year that I've not done a pool in a long time, just because it's still kind of COVID.
Yeah. With the pandemic, it's still, things are still kind of up in the air. But yeah, but even still, it's like, especially with restrictions being, with places pulling back on the restrictions, March Madness is going to be in full swing by then, and especially Final Four time. So,
and Carolina better do something, because right now they're on the bubble.
Oh,
they're not in, but I mean, they're on the bubble, but they're not in.
Yeah.
First year with new coach,
That's true.
And, and Roy Williams, I mean, he left there. I mean, he didn't have anything left to prove.
He didn't.
He actually ended up with a better record than Dean Smith, and that's saying something.
Yeah.
Because Dean Smith to me is still one of the greatest coaches ever.
Yep.
But Roy Williams, I mean, is so Carolina, and depending on how they do in the next few games, they beat NC State the other night. And I haven't really been keeping up with this much. Maybe next year, once we're fully done with the pandemic, and I can get into it a little bit more. Because it's kind of hard. Another game's canceled with pandemic. I'm like, yeah, great.
Yeah. Like fantastic.
Yeah, that's just great. Congratulations to Baylor from last year, their first championship ever, and they beat an undefeated Gonzaga team. So there should have been more drama there, but I could not get into it, just because it just did not feel, basketball-y. It did not feel.
Didn't feel like March Madness then.
It didn't. But either way, last year's WrestleMania was not on the same weekend as the Final Four.
Exactly. And it's like, where are your people that are, that there's people adding this stuff to the calendar. Where's your people that are like, oh, the Final Four is this weekend, so we need to move WrestleMania either the weekend before or the weekend afterwards. But it should not be the same night as the Final Four. If you're trying to get all this live mainstream attention from the casual fan, your casual fan is watching college basketball.
Yep. And the next weekend would be better for WrestleMania, because the weekend after that is Easter. And it's hard to have WrestleMania on Easter weekend, because a lot of people are going places with their families. I mean, that's but and the Final Four is in New Orleans. So you got to think there's New Orleans and Dallas and they're not that far away from each other.
No.
So if they're trying to get that live audience, guess what? We're going to go to New Orleans to watch the Final Four.
Yep.
And even though the tickets have not even been bought yet, I mean, there's some people that will wait until they know their team is there and then gone. And that's why they're not going to buy WrestleMania tickets yet.
Yep. Because it's like, if they're going to, especially with, today's economy and everything, people just don't have the money to buy both. So they're going to pick and choose. And it's like, am I going to the Final Four or am I going to WrestleMania? I'm going to the Final Four.
I'm going to Final Four. I'd go to the Final Four.
I'd go to the Final Four. And, it's obvious how big of a wrestling fan both of us are.
Yes.
And we'd both go to the Final Four.
Yep. I say, you know what? I'll pull up Peacock on my phone and watch it.
Exactly. Exactly. I'll just be like, okay.
Yeah.
It's like, look, oh, sorry. And then I put my phone down, because it's like, oh, look at that.
Yeah. And, and the last time they were in Dallas was also on the Final Four weekend. But I think I maybe made a remark to you. It's like, this would be a perfect weekend, because it was like Final Four Saturday in Houston, and then WrestleMania Sunday in Dallas, championship game in Houston on Monday.
Yep.
because and that's the way it was that year. And in fact, what year was that? That wasn't no, because Carolina won it in 2017, and I
Mhm.
think they were in Phoenix for that one. So hopefully it wasn't in 2006. I don't know, because I know when Carolina lost to Villanova, I'd actually fallen asleep during the game because I was having some sleep issues going on at the time. And I woke up and for some reason I had dreamed that they had won. Then I woke up and I saw the thing and everybody's talking about what a great game it was. I'm like, can't be a great game. Carolina lost. But
it was a great game though. My wife and I
oh
watched
yeah,
it. It was great.
oh yeah. I've seen, of course. I mean, I've seen that shot so many times, and
Mhm.
I even now I cry. But the next year, when they
Yeah.
took it to Gonzaga that year, that was also a great game.
Yeah.
So um, but anyway, so now that we've kind of discussed, yeah, I'm not going to say this year's Mania is going to just absolutely just be horrible, but I'm not.
I don't think it'd be horrible, but I'm like with this WrestleMania how I was with the Rumble. I'm not excited about it. And I usually
There
am
you go.
excited about seeing WrestleMania.
Yeah,
It's always usually the one pay-per-view of the year that I'm like excited about because it's like, man, this looks like a really good card. And this year's just does not. There's not a
yeah.
whole lot that has interested me on this card.
Makes me want to go.
Yeah.
But and I mean, and I hope we're wrong. I really do.
Yeah. I
You
hope we're
know,
wrong and I hope it exceeds expectations, but the way they're going about the booking and the promotion and everything, as just this, this fly by the seat of your pants booking is not it's not working.
oh well, we'll see.
Yeah.
There's still a little over a month, and we never know. I mean, what happened in the past almost 2.5 hours on Raw. Two and a
Yeah.
half hours. They've had probably 2.5 matches.
Oh yeah. No,
So
I'd say they've had two matches and then 12 promos.
yes, and two of those promos were at least 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
because the very first promo, but they've also had 15 commercials in that time too
Yep.
during the matches.
I was gonna say, and they will interrupt the best part of the match
Yeah.
to have the commercial.
Yep. So, but anyway, um, Thursday, I don't have anything on the agenda, but we never know. Something may happen between now and
Well,
then.
Tony Khan is supposed to have a big announcement for um, Dynamite on Wednesday.
Okay.
So not sure what that's going to be. Haven't really seen any of their. They're keeping it pretty tight-lipped, but yeah, he's supposed to. He's been all over social media saying he's going to have a huge announcement on Dynamite on Wednesday.
I've also heard Vince McMahon is going to have some kind of a big announcement also. Um, let me go to the trending on Twitter just to see trending with WWE Raw. Let me see. Okay, they already announced Bianca and Becky. We already knew that. Oh, I keep forgetting. It's pretty sad that Carmella and Zelina Vega are the women's tag team champions. I totally forgot because they have not been.
Well, and the thing is, that's another one of those things where it's like, Sasha and Bailey fought to get women's tag team titles. At the time, there was enough women on the roster to sustain tag team titles. Then they released a roster full of women, over the last, 2 years. And now there's hardly any women to compete for the tag titles. And they don't promote the women's tag team titles.
Yeah.
Half the time.
I mean, it's an afterthought anymore.
Yeah. Half the time, Carmella or Zelina will come out for a match and the ring announcer doesn't even announce them as one half of the women's tag team champion.
One thing we didn't mention about WrestleMania, just because it's like that much of a don't really care, is who's going to challenge Edge.
From what I've seen, it'll be AJ Styles.
And please, Edge, retire for good.
Yeah, I'm already bored. I'm so bored with this too. He's come back. He's had a good run. Now he can retire on his own terms. he needs to retire because I mean, he's on borrowed time.
Yes. And
So, and I hate to say that, and I
same
don't
here.
mean it. I don't mean any harm when I say that, but it's a fact. It was a miracle he was able to come back after he retired.
Yep.
You know,
and he should have just stayed for a little bit, got his last match, and be done. Now it's what, 3 years later, or at least 2 years later.
2 years later, yeah.
Yeah, because it was 2020 that was the Rumble he came back because that was right before the pandemic started.
Yep. He came back at the 2020 Rumble. He
won 21.
Yeah.
And
then wrestled with his wife at this one.
Yep. Yeah. And a match that surprisingly was not that bad. You know, it was actually entertaining. I mean, it wasn't
a 5-star
match,
but it was just I just didn't care.
it was a bathroom break match.
Yeah. You know, I wouldn't made a snack. I just didn't care.
Yeah. I mean, I made a snack, and that snack took a while. You know,
yeah, and it was still on when I came back.
Yeah, I made a Reuben sandwich. You know how long it takes to make a Reuben?
Yeah,
you know. But I tell you what, a good Reuben. I mean, there's something about a good Reuben. Yeah. So, but anyway, so yeah, we'll figure out something because we always do.
Yep.
And you know, hopefully we have some good news. And I'm looking forward to seeing something. I actually texted somebody today and asked them if they need any more information from us.
Right.
You know, so I don't want to make that announcement just yet.
No,
you know, not until I actually see something.
Yeah.
You know, so hopefully we've got everybody intrigued, except for that, you know, there's a couple people who already know what's going on.
Yeah.
And they're looking forward to it. So, but in the meantime, we'll figure something out and see you. God bless.
All right. God bless.